Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be reviewing Peter Benchley's Jaws. Shark head. Before I get into anything, I just want to say I believe there is a 40-year moratorium on spoilers for Jaws, both the film and the novel, but since the book is so incredibly different from the film, I will try to keep my spoilers as vague as possible. So the opening scene is told through the perspective of the shark, something I really loved and something I think that Peter Benchley did a really great job with. With regard to the shark and amity and the struggle between man and nature, the story is essentially the same. There are some added things in the novel that just make it different, just completely different experience. Where the book differs, honestly, the most would be the subplots. There is a mafia connection subplot and a romantic subplot. Romantic-ish. And the film, there's none of that. The film is from beginning to end action-adventure, so it really has none of those other subplots, or really any subplots when you think about it. Spoilery parts. So if you have any intentions of reading Jaws by Peter Benchley, leave now or forever hold your peace. I did not like. The characters are unlikable. In fact, I think the only two likable characters in the novel are the shark, who had no backstory or character arc because it's a shark, and Quint, because if you've seen the film, you kind of expect him to be an asshole, and then he is, so he meets your expectations. There's really no character development at all with any of the characters, with the exception of the little character development that Ellen Brody had, but none of the characters had any real character development at all. Which kind of brings me to the ending. The ending of the book was very anticlimactic. Brody was not at all challenged. He was not at all put into a position where he needed to get really out of his comfort zone and take matters into his own hands. It kind of felt like everything was happening to him and he wasn't making anything happen throughout the novel. This is a spoiler, so if you have intentions on reading the book anyway and you're still watching, I would mute it for 10 to 15 seconds. So what really happens at the end is Matt Hooper has already died at the hands of the shark. It's Brody and Quint, and they're trying to get these harpoons into the shark so that they can, drown him and take him back into shore. So the shark jumps up and lands on the boat, very much the way he does in the movie. And that is when Quint is killed. Quint is not bitten in half, though. He actually stabs the shark in the belly and with one of the darts, and the shark, topples overboard and starts swimming away, and the rope that was attached to the dart has somehow wound its way around Quint's ankle, so it drags him into the water as well. And he cannot get back to the boat close to Brody to be able to either cut the rope off or to continue stabbing the shark so that he dies. And it's ridiculous. So then the boat is sinking, and I mean legit sinking. This thing sinks in a matter of, I don't know, minutes. And Martin Brody is in the water with one of the seat cushions keeping him afloat because he can't swim, and he's kicking, and the shark is coming right at him and then suddenly stops like a foot in front of him and then just starts to sink, and Martin Brody starts kicking to shore. Cricket. Another thing that I kind of found strange, it's not so much that I didn't like it, I just found it really weird, is that Peter Benchley, for whatever reason, felt the need to constantly comment on penis size, that of the sharks included. The first time it happens with the shark, it kind of fits because Matt Hooper is down in the shark cage and the shark kind of swims up right in front of him, and he's got his hand out with his fingertips grazing along, the shark's belly, and just kind of marveling at how magnificent and huge this animal is. And he takes note of, I think, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the thick, meaty claspers. Okay, Peter Benchley, a little weird, but it kind of fits because, you know, Matt is just marveling at this incredible creature. The second time he does it, however, he gives a line to Quint, and not only does he mention the claspers in the narrative, but then he gives Quint the line, "I see your cock, you asshole." I don't understand what Peter Benchley's obsession with penis size is. He has Matt Hooper mention something about penis size in his lunch date with Ellen Brody, and I just don't understand the obsession with penis size. 1974, I guess? I really don't know. With the romantic subplot, Benchley, I think, in a sense, tried to justify and romanticize cheating. There's this whole thing with Ellen Brody where she gets into a real funk during the summer because it's the time of year that, you know, the kids are off from school. She doesn't really have very much to do. So she just kind of sits around and remembers this past life before she married Brody, when she would come to Amity during the summer because she's from an affluent family. And she, you know, would go to all the best parties and, you know, go to really nice restaurants, and just basically she misses that crowd. But now that she's married to Brody, she's kind of between worlds. Like, she doesn't quite fit in with the summer people, but she doesn't quite fit in with the locals because she's not really, I mean, she's a local, but she's not really a local, you know, not like Brody's a local. The characters are so unlikable. Steven Spielberg is quoted as saying that the characters were so unlikable that I found myself rooting for the shark. I absolutely agree. There were moments where I wanted to jump into the pages, take Ellen Brody by the hand, and walk her down to the beach and just call the shark and be like, "Here you go, baby." So it's already summertime. Ellen Brody is in this funk, and the shark attacks are happening. Matt Hooper is called in. He gets into town, and it turns out that Ellen Brody used to date David Hooper, who is Matt Hooper's older brother, way back in the day, way before she met Brody. So she kind of has that instant type connection with him. So then when she finally meets him at a hardware store, I'm pretty sure, you know, she talks to him and they start reminiscing about old times, and he actually remembers her from when she dated his brother, and just very, almost kind of a cute meet where it doesn't seem so bad at first. It's just, you know, it really seems friendly, and it seems a little overly friendly, maybe a little flirtatious, but it's not necessarily crossing a line quite yet. Now, fast forward a little bit, she invites Matt Hooper and another married couple and a single lady to the Brody house for a dinner party. And the whole time she's basically flirting with Matt Hooper, kind of openly. And she gets annoyed with Brody over every single thing. So after this dinner party, Ellen decides that she is going to seduce Matt Hooper because, I mean, that is just the logical conclusion. I mean, I'm talking she goes all out. This is a premeditated extramarital affair. She gets up with the idea already that she's going to be doing this. She calls up Matt Hooper. She waits till Brody leaves for work. Then she calls up Matt Hooper at his hotel and says, "Oh, hey, I wanted to thank you for my shark tooth because when he came to the dinner party, he brought her a little shark tooth that he had gotten on some expedition, whenever." So she calls him up and says, "I wanted to thank you for my shark tooth again, and I was wondering if you wanted to go to lunch." And he says, "Oh, well, you, me, and the chief?" And she says, "No, I think just you and I." So he agrees. She takes a shower. She puts perfume on her nipples and her and she gets into her work clothes. She packs a change of clothes, first of all. She puts that bag into the back seat of her car. She's in her work clothes. She goes to work, and then she works for a few hours, feigns like a headache or just not feeling well and says, I'm gonna go lay down in the nurse's station for a little while, but if you don't see me after an hour or two, just assume I went home because I'm really not feeling well. She's establishing an alibi. She's preparing herself, you know, everywhere. So they meet up for lunch and then they start having this really weird and uncomfortable conversation about sexual fantasies, where she relays that 2 of her fantasies are to be a prostitute so that she can sleep with a lot of men and to be raped. What? Peter Benchley, what kind of women did you know in 1974? That's all I have to ask you. Terrible, terrible, terrible representation of women and marriage in this novel. There's literally not one healthy marriage in this novel. None. There's not one. Not even in passing. There is just no healthy marriage. No representation of that. All of the marriages are either one-sided or both people are just pieces of shit. It's frustrating. There's not even really a resolution with the romantic subplot other than Matt Hooper dies. Awesome. And Ellen Brody realizes that she has been a freaking bitch the entire novel and is finally grateful for what she has with Brody. But they never talk about it. They never hash out their issues. They never come to an understanding with each other. She just kind of realizes that she's been a complete twat the whole book and is like, okay, well, now I'm okay. Which, I mean, I guess is something, but still not very much of a character development. I wish we had seen more of it. Moreover, the romantic subplot has no real tie-in to the main story other than it involves Matt Hooper and Martin Brody in a weird roundabout way. So then the Mafia connection. The Mafia connection has a really anticlimactic ending, but I did like how it directly ties into the shark situation. It kind of really sets forth and amplifies the high stakes that Amity has in getting rid of this shark because it keeps attacking people. And, you know, it kind of gives the mayor much more motive to try to get the shark taken care of as quickly as possible so that they can open the beaches again and Amity can have an awesome summer. So now things that I liked. The shark scenes were awesome. And for the most part, the shark scenes in the novel are pretty much the same as the shark scenes in the book, with a few changes here and there. For example, when Alex Kittner is attacked, there's also a 65-year-old man later that day, I think within an hour, that is also attacked. So that was different because that other man wasn't attacked in the film. It was just Alex Kittner. Or actually, it was a dog. The poor doggy. And then there was a scene where a kid is dared to go into the water and swim X amount of yards because they finally opened the beaches, and he has a very, very close call with the shark. And I mean, those scenes were written very, very well. He kind of head hops throughout the story, mostly when he's writing about the shark through the perspective of the shark. He'll jump from the shark's perspective to the target's perspective, if you will, the swimmer's perspective. And it can be a little bit jarring, but, you know, somehow he makes it work, which is very rare. I mean, you hear it all the time. Do not head hop in one scene. He does it all the time in this novel, and somehow it works. It shouldn't work, but it works. The clarity of the high stakes for Amity Island. So Amity Island is a resort town, and basically they rely on the summer months to get them through the winter time. If they have a terrible summer, then they don't have enough to sustain them throughout the winter because they make all of their money during the summer. They kind of made that clear in the film, but I think it was only 1 or 2 lines. In fact, I think it was only 1 line from the mayor. But here they just kept reiterating that we need to have a good summer. If we don't have a good summer, we're going to be dead by winter. We're not going to survive the winter. So I really, really liked that a lot. It just kind of solidified the high stakes that they really need to get rid of this shark. In the film, it felt more to me, I haven't seen it in a while. I probably should have watched it right after I finished reading the novel just to kind of refresh my memory. But from what I remember, it kind of gave more of the personal greed type feel rather than this is essential for the town. They did give this is essential for the town, but it seemed to me like the emphasis was more on the personal greed, like we need to have an amazing summer because we want to make money. Another thing that I liked was Brody's initial moral compass. Now, Brody is not ever a perfect character. He always has some flaws, but when Christy Watkins, I believe is her name, when the first victim is attacked, he at the very least automatically has this sense of responsibility to protect the people of Amity. So not only does he want to close the beaches, but he wants to run an article in the local newspaper to let everyone know what happened so that they understand why the beaches are closed. And he wants to do this with, you know, his job in mind. He's the chief of police. He needs to protect the citizens of Amity and the people visiting from other places in the tri-state area. So I really liked that he had that essential moral compass. And he does kind of go along with, you know, covering up the first attack and not closing the beaches. But he really does feel guilty afterwards, and he continues to feel guilty. So that was one aspect of Martin Brody that I liked. But all of his other flaws, I mean, it just completely overrode that. So it wasn't enough to make me like the character. He was just a pain in the ass, but he just happened to have a good moral compass. Other thing I liked, Quint. Again, Quint in the film is kind of seen as a bit of a turd, just because he's, you know, really snarky and he's just kind of an asshole, but he's like a lovable asshole, and he's exactly the same in the novel. So if you've seen the movie and then you read the novel, you will be satisfied with the portrayal of Quint. I think with the exception of the penis line. Oh, he isn't in the novel as often as you would think. He's pretty much in the back half of it. He does make an appearance a little early on, but he doesn't make an appearance after that for a long, long time. And lastly, I mean, I couldn't help but appreciate the 1974 feel to this novel. You know, women sipping vermouth and, you know, saying things like swell, and just, it was very 1974. Hendrix reading a trashy romance novel during his overnight shift at the police station. Like, just the whole feel of it just felt very 1974. And personally, I think 1974 was one of our better decades, especially for music. I think that was one of the best decades for music. So a lot of those, you know, little timestamps, if you will, were something that I appreciated in the novel. In the end, the cons just really, really outweighed the pros of this novel. So I'm going to end up, when I get on my Goodreads, giving it a 2.5, 2-ish. Somewhere in the middle, not quite 2, not quite 3, out of 5 stars, because, and I never thought I would say this in my entire life, but the film was 10 times better than the book. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this novel to anyone. However, I will say this much. I do not feel like I wasted my time reading this. I did, for the most part, enjoy the read. I think especially because I have seen the film many, many times. But I don't feel like I wasted my time at all. So there's that. So that's all I got for you guys. Have you ever read a book that was not as good as the film adaptation? Let me know in the comments below. For now, I will say goodbye. I gotta get out of here. My battery is literally dying. I will see you guys next time.